The following is a production of Mosaic in Whittier, California, a community of faith, hope, and love.
Father, thank you for being a good God who loves us and cares for us. And what I pray happens today at the end of the talk is that we have a higher appreciation, a higher value for the book that we want to live by and claim we live by, and sometimes we're completely unfamiliar with. And so help me as I navigate this conversation, the one that I've been having with you for several years this morning. In Christ's name, amen. Hey, I'm going to jump into some slides. I know many of you are visual learners, so you fall right to sleep the moment I open my mouth, but you're so impressed with slides and pictures. You go, oh, look, pictures. So we're going to do that for a bit, just to hold your interest. So let's go ahead and go to that first one here. And the story I'm going to tell you is a story about a guy named Josiah who became a king at 8 years old. So just a little guy, just, the king right here. Are you okay, Bo? Yeah, you okay, everybody? So then, and Josiah he had, great mentors, he had a heritage, and what he did, as we read the story, I just want to have you get kind of a picture in your head, is that he began to purge the land and get rid of anything that didn't align itself with the founding documents of that country. I'm saying it that way so that it makes more sense, so that, for example, some of you are concerned that our country is becoming socialist and, or it's communist or blah, blah, blah. It's not. But let's say that you were concerned that it was. So many of you think, well, if you get back to the founding documents and what it is that the founding documents say that how the government's supposed to run, let's get back to that. So in a way, this is what's happening, where the king is thinking, let's get rid of everything that's not part of Jehovah in Israel. We have a country named after our God, but we have other gods in here. So they started tearing down the Ashtoreth poles and her husband Baal. And this is a highly sexualized religion, public intercourse, all this madness, including some child sacrifices that got crazy towards the end there. And so he without any kind of real scriptures to help him with this, just thought, this is not making sense. We have a country named after one God, but we have other gods here. So once again, let me just reframe it. If we have a republic style of government, if we changed, let's say, different practices, it's like, well, we have a document that says how we're supposed to govern ourselves, and we're not doing it. Let's go back to the original documents. All right? Follow? So that was happening. They were just tearing that stuff down and getting rid of it. And you see these guys who might say, tearing down look at that big bouffant from the 50s, that woman. And then her husband's angry, I want supper, so that's what he's doing there. And it looks like a mini Washington Monument's going down the other end. And then they're dismantling an altar there, and so they're like, come on, let's all do this. And then on the next image, we'll see, this is what's interesting. Many of you have never seen this, and I didn't until recently. This is in a city called Arad in Israel. Some of you have been there. You may know where this is. It's a little south of Jerusalem, towards the west of the Dead Sea. And what makes this place unique, this particular tell is just like a hill, is that there we have found a temple from the time of this king that we're going to read about. Now what makes that interesting is a couple of things. What makes it interesting is that it was a Yahwistic or a Jehovah or a God temple. In other words, it was a temple that was dedicated to worshiping God, but it wasn't in Jerusalem. And Josiah, as a young king, said, I know that you guys mean well. And this is about God, the God that we are named after, but it's still not exactly how the documents say we're supposed to do this. So, it's got to be torn down. But apparently, the people who went to service there, they worshiped there, they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't tear it down. And so what they did is that they covered it up. They laid each of the items down on their side and then covered it in dirt. And so we have the benefit of seeing what that was like, how people used to go to, quote, temple at that time. If you go to the next slide, you'll see this is maybe hard to distinguish on the right-hand side of the screen that you're looking at is the altar of sacrifice to the correct proportions that are described in the Pentateuch. And if you move over to the left, you'll see you enter the holy place, then the Holy of Holies, and over to the top, left-hand corner, you see one peeking out and then one tablet standing, which stood for the commandments. It's a fantastic thing to actually see. That, I know it's like a pile of dirt and rocks, and it is, but these people went there and worshiped the God that we're worshiping this morning. That's what's fantastic about this. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see another view of this. So now you're looking more straight into. So there's the entrance, there's a court, the altar, holy place, the Holy of Holies, and where a priest would go in and do a blood sacrifice in there. And here's the next one is an illustration of what, oh yes, that image. Hold on to that for a second. Remember, when between Abraham and God, when they made that first initial agreement and covenant, it was sealed in blood. And the idea was that if one or the other person did not keep their end of the bargain, if they made this blood path, and you would walk down the channel with blood, this hopefully sounds familiar, we did this a few months ago, and you're saying, if I don't keep my end of the bargain, you can do this to me, right? And so Abraham, off to the side there, is like, well, I'm not walking down that, because I can't keep this covenant. And so God, in a mystical, amazing way, moves through that as a lamp of fire. But that became the establishment of why there was always blood sacrifices all the time. They got to be it is a very bloody sort of religion. That every animal killed was to say, I have broken the covenant, but by killing this animal and bleeding it out, I'm clean. The blood covers my end of the bargain, temporarily. And so whenever a man or a woman, and you have to feel this, whenever they wanted to feel close to God and feel clean and be free from guilt or shame, that they could go to that altar, and though it's messy and bloody to us, they would you could actually be at peace with God, saying, okay, blood has been spilled, the covenant is intact, it's done. Until the final sacrifice, which is Jesus. Now you understand hopefully a bit more why he had to die. Because he takes the place of humanity, being human, and God, and does the final sacrifice once and for all, the scriptures say. And so we can also then, in a sense, go across metaphorically or in our minds, in our spiritual journeys, and say, okay, I cannot find peace, I cannot make atonement for the mess I made. How do I square this with the universe? How do I pay for the moral crimes? It's been done. How do I get rid of my shame? It's been done. How do I break the power that darkness has had on my life? Well, that's the end result of the other end of it, the resurrection. And we talked about this the last few weeks. And so that's what that moment with Abraham and God earlier in Genesis led to that altar and the sacrifices that went on there. All right, let's go to the next one briefly. So there's the Holy of Holies. That is what they found. Now those two items in the front are current. It would be a showbread, where there was a table of bread, 12 loaves representing the tribes of Israel. The tribes? Am I going to live in a flood here? Is there a Wesley Webb over there as well? Breaking in a new set of teeth. There was the 12 tribes of Israel. And, they're saying, you give us our food, our bread, and then you hear that echo in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread, and all that's happening there. And then those two stones represent the covenant between God and Israel, God and humanity. Let's go one more. I think this is going to be towards the end. Yes, perfect. And so that's what that would have looked like. And it's a mini version of the temple that was in Israel. But at the time that the writings that we're going to read right now, it was destroyed. It was a rubble. It was a return to the land from a nation that had been in exile, scattered abroad. They come back to Israel, and the place is kind of a mess. And Josiah's trying to, put this back together for people. So courtyard, temple place, and yeah. All right, so let me just jump into 2 Chronicles 34. I'll read the story to you. This is out of NIV. And let's go ahead and start. So Josiah was 8 years old when he became king. And he reigned for 31 years. So how old was he? 39. Thank you. All right, math majors. Awesome. Some of you were still grabbing your phone to do the calculator. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and followed the ways of his father David, not turning aside to the right or to the left. And one thing you have to understand, that in the south, there were mostly good kings, but a few bad apples. In the north, it was almost all bad. And this is why when the country began to go down the toilet, it was all the folks and the tribes in the north that fell first and then followed shortly, about 150 years by the south. So Josiah was trying to do a good thing. And then it goes on, in the 8th year of his reign, so how old is he now? 16. Some of you were doing the math beforehand, right? He's going to ask, you do this. In the 8th year, when he was 16. 16! By the way, he doesn't have a copy of the scriptures. In the 8th year, while he was still young, he began to seek the God of his father David. In his 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem of high places, Asherah poles, and idols. And under his direction, the altars of the Baals were torn down. He cut to pieces the incense altars that were above them. He smashed the Asherah poles and the idols. And then he broke to pieces and scattered over the grave of those who had sacrificed to him. Kind of an angry young man, but he wants to. He heard the stories. He remembers the legends. He recognizes that we need to do this, or I need to be the guy that sets this nation on a healthier path. And I got to start where I'm at, in Jerusalem, where the king is, and where the temple is. And then throughout Judah, which is like saying, I'm going to start in LA and go through Southern California. In the 18th year of Josiah's reign, to purify the land and the temple, he sent Shaphan, and who was the son of these people, the ruler of this person, and Joah, the son of this person, to the recorder. Why? To repair the temple of the Lord his God. Then it goes on to say that while they were bringing out the money that had been taken into the temple of the Lord, Hilkiah the priest, when you read this ought to be, if it wasn't kind of funny, it'd be tragic, and it is tragic also. Hey, look what I found! A Bible! Have you guys moved and found a Bible? Hey, my Bible. This is where it was. Honey, how are we going to get that coffee table? I don't know. Let's pick it up. Hey, look! It's my Bible. And then when you take it and you put the coffee, that's what's keeping the coffee table. Yes. You're only laughing because some of you have found a Bible that you were just not. It wasn't part of you. This is, by the way, let me tell you the secret about pastors. It's easy to come up here and shame people into trying to do things. Because if you're trying to do the right thing, it's never enough. You guys need to pray. Yeah, you're right, I don't pray enough. You need to read the Bible. Yeah, you know how I think about it, I don't read enough. That's not what this is about. I can tell you honestly, that's not what this is about. But, find yourself in this story and let the Lord tell you where you're at. Okay? Awesome. Thank you, sir. Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of the Lord that had been given through Moses. And Hilkiah said to the secretary, found the Bible. And guess what? I found some in the temple, some old places. Isn't that something? What else? Is that it? Give it a 7? Awesome. So let me talk about finding the book and reading the book and implementing the book here. What's interesting to me is that this was found in the midst of trying to do the right thing in the temple of the Lord. And in that temple, which was cluttered and in rubble, in the mess of it, is where they find the Word. Now, I'm not certain how that hits you. I guess one of the things I'm thinking of right off the bat, especially if you're visiting here today, if you don't call yourself a Christian, first of all, I applaud you for walking into a church. And I realize that at some level you're kind of half hoping that there's an answer for you here. Like, okay, I'm going to try it, but I don't think there is. Let me speak to you briefly for just a moment. I'm going to suggest to you that you already have a sacred book in your life. You have somebody, something, somewhere, something that you read, devour, expose yourself to, that you feel gives you some meaning, some significance. You feel like it kind of gives you direction in life. You follow? If you have a hobby, you probably, maybe some of you subscribe to Car and Driver magazine. You're into cars. not going to make a joke, but there's material here. I subscribe to 3 men's magazines, not the girly ones. I'm talking about, the clothes ones. Do I need to know how to put a tie on the shirt? No, but I'll still read about it. Oh, George Clooney's doing this one. Let's find out what he's doing. Tom Hardy took off his shirt. Well, I want to say that for myself. You sure did. What's new in shoes? How can shoes be any different? It's a freaking shoe. It's just a shoe, sir. I know. But I want the shoe issue of GQ. Thank you very much. Right there in my pocket. Get in there. So I recognize that you have, and I have, if you have something that you read, do, watch, devour, that is your thing. It's your thing. As Christians, all we're saying is that this is our thing. We'll have respect for your thing. We're just asking for mutual respect for our thing. What we're saying is that we think that this book is extraterrestrial. We actually believe that we are a visited planet. We think that the author of this book, through a human agent, is a supreme being that's trying to speak to us. That there's a God who's there, not silent, which is nice, but more than that, He cares. He cares to communicate His love to us and His ability to be involved in our lives. So let me ask you, when's the last time you think you heard a good voice? You're not a follower of Jesus. When's the last time you felt good about the voices you're hearing in your head? Because I know this, if you're not hearing voices, you are crazy. You are crazy if you don't hear voices. If you don't hear voices, something has gone wrong. Your life has gone off the rails. The electricity is turned off. Check. If you're not hearing voices, it's because somewhere you've turned off completely. Voices in your head tell me that you are interacting with the spiritual realm. And the voices that are from God that you may not recognize yet are the ones that say it could be better. Why isn't it better? I wish I was this instead of that. That is already God trying to nudge you to give you a picture that you could have a life that's fulfilled and happy and good. And if your life is good and you're a high-functioning human being, congratulations. Imagine how it could be if the Supreme Being had a place in your heart, in your soul, in your head, in your mind. Part of what we do as followers of Jesus is to help people interpret the voices that are in their head. And the voices that are dark and destructive and are harmful, that wish to humiliate, that is not God. It is never God. Jesus Himself said, I didn't come to condemn, but to give life. So when was the last time you think you heard that voice? I will say this, that His voice generally is usually moving, it's never condemning, and it's always grounding. It's always grounding in the sense that it seems to give answers to questions that I have, like, where am I going? Who am I? What's my purpose? How do I contribute? What is the purpose of all this? And some of you have asked those questions. You wonder, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why should I care? Why should I not just live the life of doing whatever I want to do? So you find the book, oddly enough, when a person is attempting to square things away in the midst of all this chaos and trouble. And now some of you think, and I would say erroneously, that you have to fix everything first. And then you hear, no, this story says, in the midst of the mess and chaos, God can find you. But then, how many of you have more than one Bible that's yours? I have 6, I think, at home. I don't read any of them. No, I have 6 at home. And besides the one in your phones, right? Some of you have your First Communion Bible. You probably never cracked it open. Some of you have a Catholic version. Some of you have the version you got when you graduated from college or from high school. We have so many Bibles. If there's nothing about America, is that we have a ton of Bibles. And that we claim are important and then never read. Here's the thing. You probably don't need a person like myself to tell you everything. You probably don't. I'm convinced of this, that if you were to take that book, open it, and ask, if you're there, speak to me, you know what's going to happen? He'll speak to you. The thing is that what's funny is that when a man or woman comes to the scriptures and reads the book, what's kind of creepy about it is that it begins to interact with you and it reads you. We come to it thinking, let me see if I can believe this. And I sometimes sense the Bible saying, well, I can't believe you right now, man. That's what I can't do. You open it, it opens you. It speaks, it questions, it heals. To me, that Bible is always that, as in every, fantasy or, fantasy movie, fantasy literature, it's always that magic book that when you open it, it speaks, it's got, it's magic. I don't put it the other way. I know that's kind of strange to position the Bible that way, but what else is it if it's not mystically speaking to you, a portal to the invisible? How do you say it's boring? I don't know that. You are entering another realm when you open that book and expose yourself to it. But it's a mirror. We cannot, I'll just say anything. Any reflection, water, glass, a shiny car, everything okay? All right, good. And how many of you thought you looked together until you saw yourself in the mirror? Oh my gosh, I got stuff in my teeth or DNA going on over here. And you're grateful for a mirror? What do you look like on the inside? Are you a generous, healthy, kind person? But maybe it's just a check. It's like, oh yeah, good, things are well. That's a mirror can do that. A mirror reflects what's in front of it. But so does the Scripture. As James says, this is a mirror. You could, and you know who the reflection you measure it up against? A human being. Jesus, a fully functioning, healthy human being. This is the measure. You become human for the first time. But again, it's one thing to find that book, it's another thing to actually read it. Here's where the rubber meets the road. It's implementing that book. And you've heard me say this phrase, how often it is that we pretend not to know. You can pretend not to know. How many of you ever heard of Blue Apron? Anybody? Yes. Yes. Oh, good. You guys are doing it? You've heard of it, haven't you? This is all about you right now, sir. It's right. Set up straight, my friend. Blue Apron is a meal service. You get this food delivered to your house. Because I'm just too lazy to go to the market and get myself. But they give you the food, the recipes, and the menus to make dinner. I thought, why didn't they cook it? No, but I saw someone's lazy. So because I don't have a real job, I only work on Sundays, I started to cook at my house with a little apron on, pearls, and then was that funny? And so, but I'm following the recipe. This is me cooking apparently. Because, mince this, chop that, and then, grind do the thing. And it's a lot of fun. I so enjoy it. It's great, but I gotta follow the recipe because I don't know what I'm doing. And even when it's, I've done this before, I'm still following the recipe. And there gets to be a place, as my father was a chef, he just knows stuff. He just knows how to do things. There was no mayonnaise in the house one day. I still remember this story. But Dad, I'll make some. What do you do? How do you make mayonnaise? What kind of voodoo is happening here? What type of voodoo priest are you, sir? Need the blood of a goat? A small child? You will do. That's my brother. I'll make another. When you are making your soul, and sir, madam, that is the one thing you own. I don't care how crappy your life has been. Sooner or later, you have to just take personal responsibility for your soul. Some of you had a bad, or dealt a bad hand. Whatever that metaphor is when you play cards. Right? You didn't get all the pieces for your Parcheesi game, whatever that is. But sooner or later, you have to get to a place where it's like, okay, do I let that determine the course of my life? Am I going to let my past dictate where I end up? Am I defined by the worst? Or am I going to be defined by the recipe that's in this book? That I could be a human being. I could be free. We sang about that. And it's the book that sets you free because it's the words of God. It's a portal into the invisible. It's the connection to the Savior who loves you. Follow the recipe. Align yourself with it. Pattern yourself after it. Here's a word. I think it's called, what's that word? I've seen it on t-shirts on the walls. Oh yes, obey. There's always an Andre the Giant with it as well. The Bible is the human recipe. And then share this book. You know, I'm apologizing to my wife more and more as I get older because I realize what a crummy, you know, she was hoping to marry a man. I stayed 12 all my life. Just even right at 12. And I would come home, she'd be home all day with the kids, she'd make a nice dinner, and I ate a donut, I'm not hungry. You know, I don't know why she didn't just embed that fork right in my chest, you know, here's dinner, you know. Pulled it out, oh, it's not cooked yet. Because when I start dinner at 4:30, and if my wife's a minute late, I'm like, where are you? Because dinner's ready. Dinner is ready. Look, dinner. How many have a favorite hamburger place or restaurant that you go to? Which one is it? Say it. What? Red Robin. Okay, good. In-N-Out. Yes, you know why? Because you love Jesus. That's right, madam. God, guns, and In-N-Out make this country great, so I suppose. Back there, what's your favorite hamburger joint? Anybody? The counter. The counter? I'm done, let's pray. Did you say the habits? The hats! It don't matter. It don't matter. It's the mom who's like, oh, yeah. I'm not hearing Douglas on Imperial Highway. Hello, my friend. Hello to you, sir. I love steak sandwiches there. I'll always get them. I don't care. If they're going to give me something free, it doesn't matter. I want a steak sandwich. I always do. I take friends there just to experience Douglas and let them know I'm a big deal. This guy thinks I'm his friend. I called everybody that, but still, in that moment, I'm a big deal. I said that to say that have you ever been to a church where the pastor or Bible teacher, well-meaning, but I think erroneous, they said, share your faith, share what you know, blah, blah, blah. And you feel guilty, like, I'm not going to do that. You know why? If you don't think it's worth sharing, why would I tell you to share something you're not that interested in? Keep it to yourself, please. And come to church, there's something there for you. I'm depressed already, sir. I don't need to go to church for that. But you know what? Oh my gosh, my wife did this once. It's so funny. She was in Tokyo, not in Tokyo, little Tokyo. Little difference. Tokyo was involved. And she came home to say, oh my, honey, there's this place in Little Tokyo. Yes, they have these donuts. Full attention. Dialed in at that moment. Glazed donuts, yes, with bacon. The bacon bits? No, real bacon on it. I got 2 of them for you. Fluid everywhere was just coming out. I know, that was a horrible image. But it was the truth. You know what the kicker is? But I ate them on the way here. What's the purpose of that story, Natalie? I felt great about my life until this moment. You ever taken someone to see a movie that you love? Dude, you gotta see this movie. Aren't you disappointed when they don't, like, in love with it like you are? But when they love it like you do, it wasn't that great. And then you have this thing now. And then you quote lines from the movie. Oh, Batman. Yeah, I got that. Whatever the line is, right? When you experience the love of God that heals your soul, you will not be able to share it. You don't have to be told. tell people about our favorite food, our favorite places, the best deals, the things that are great, things that you enjoy. You just naturally do that. You just share it. Because most of you are decent human beings and you want to share something good you found that was for free with someone else. So I know I don't have to tell you, you'll do it when you find it. And here's the other thing. Some of you think, yeah, I'm an introvert, I'm an I don't do this. That's awesome, because here's what else I know. When you have an interesting, compelling life, people just want to know. People want to know what you do while you do. How do you live this? You go through a situation that's tough. How did you get through that? Or you're that one person that when you, actually on Mondays when you go back to the job, you're not hating your life. You're just different. You're the person that when people are struggling about something, you actually go, hey man, can I pray for you? Have you ever offered to pray for your coworkers? It is the strangest dynamic that occurs afterwards. Because I've never had someone say to me, no, don't pray for me. Never, not once. Not once. Find that book, read that book, implement it, pattern your life after it, as much as you're able to do. No one's asking you to be perfect. Not even the book asks you to be perfect in that respect. It's just asking you to be free who you are. And if you're not a follower of Jesus this morning, why not? If what you have is working so well for you, sir, madam, that's great. That's awesome. And I mean that seriously. There's no snarkiness in this remark. But if it stops working, consider the book. But before you get there, if your life's working right now, open the book. Start with the stories of Jesus, the biographies. They're usually called Gospels. Go to the biographies of Jesus. Just read about his life, by his closest friends. What did they say about him? Why were they so impacted by this guy? How did millions of followers of Jesus from around the world, multiple cultures, different time zones, for hundreds of years, why are we driven by this book? How did this book that influenced Western literature, saints, sinners, poets, artists, why? If nothing else, it ought to be an interesting artifact. But it is more than that. It is actually a portal to connect to God. And finally this, those of you who are followers, let me give you, take it. If it works for you, awesome. If it doesn't, it's because you didn't do it right. Stop getting all weird about defending the Bible or Christianity. Seriously. You know why? You look weird when you do that. That's why. And there's something about fanatics, and that is fanatical. It says something about you if you are always on the defensive about the Bible. Because a fanatic secretly doubts their opinions and their views. And that's what you reveal. When someone says, you drive a Ford Explorer. Yeah, Fords are stupid. Okay. That's not changing anything about me or my car. I don't care. You follow? If someone criticizes, oh, you have a lawn, I do this, I do flowers. Okay. Awesome. Weirdo. I can't believe you wear skinny jeans on Sunday, a man of your age. That was hurtful, but the point is I'm still going to wear them. As long as I can squeeze into them. Roll myself into that. So don't get weird over the Bible, dude. Seriously. Dude, madam. You know who you are. It's okay. You know what? The thing is, you were once that person too, probably. So let them have the dignity of their own journey. Listen, live an interesting, compelling life. Set yourself on fire with that book. And that'll be your best response to people who think it's goofy. Just live a healthy life. Yes? Awesome. Father, thank you for being so good to us. I'm so grateful that we have a word from you in our midst, we can buy it at the store, we can download a copy for free. Now, when I pray for my friends here, those who might have felt guilty, like, oh, I don't do this enough, but hey, Father, I pray that you help them relax and understand that this is coming from love from you and from me. That you just want their company and you want them to be healthy and to be free. But the way that happens is that they get into the book and learn how to live a healthy life, learn how to be a human being. And so I pray that those who are followers of Jesus would relax and enjoy the book and their time in reading the scripture. And I pray for my friends who they're not sure about this, that they would have an interest and be brave enough to approach the book and expose themselves to Jesus. In Christ's name.